jury. Before we bring the jury in, are there any other matters for the court's attention?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor, we're ready to proceed.
All right, in that case, we'll bring the jury back in. Let the record reflect that the jury is in the courtroom and has been seated. We will proceed with the closing remarks by the people.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, it was the defendant's choice. Today we heard the story of the defendant, a casino owner who chose to bribe the chair of the Gambling Commission. On April 16th of 2015, the defendant invited the chair of the Gambling State Commission to his own casino, where he gave him a $200,000 bribe. But members of the jury, this case may be different than what you were expecting. Because today, the defendant has already admitted to committing this bribe. What today's case was about was blame. The defendant is now trying to blame an undercover officer for the actions that he took. And this undercover officer simply presented the defendant with the opportunity to show his true colors. And he did. He chose to bribe a public official. And that is why we are here today. Now, we as the state, we have a burden of proof in today's case. And we have to prove to you that the defendant had a predisposition to commit a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, when I say beyond a reasonable doubt, it simply means that after hearing all the facts and all the evidence that came out in today's trial, you cannot have any doubts based upon your own common sense or reason. And when I say predisposition to commit a crime, that simply means that the defendant was willing to commit this crime of his own free will. Now, to prove to you that we have reached our burden, we called 3 witnesses before you. We called Devin Del Sesto. Devin Del Sesto is a bellhop at the defendant's casino. And he told you about the day, February 16, 2015. You heard today throughout trial that the first time the defendant had ever met Officer Keenan was on March 31st, 2015. So members of the jury, on February 16th, a month and a half before the defendant ever met Officer Keenan, he was on the phone. And we heard him say, "Thanks for calling me back. I'm putting together a proposal and I just want to get it done. If you are for sale, I am willing to pay the price, whatever it is." Members of the jury, the defendant said those words a month and a half before he even knew Officer Keenan. So let's go to the first meeting they had between the defendant and Officer Keenan. That was on March 31st, 2015. Today, the defendant, he took that stand and he told you, me, along with my executive assistant, and Officer Keenan were present in that meeting. Now, in that meeting, no one mentioned money. No one mentioned the bribe. But it was clear to him that they were insinuating that he had to bribe the Midland gambling chair. Members of the jury, and that is a thought that he came up with all on his own. No one told him to do such. No one told him about a bribe. No one told him to give money. But the defendant already had it in his mind that he had to give the gambling chair a bribe. And that was evident because he later had another meeting. That was on April 13, 2015. The defendant, he took that stand today, and he told you exactly what happened in that meeting. He told you that they were talking about the proposal, and Officer Keenan, he handed him a napkin, an opportunity. The officer wanted to see what the defendant would do. Members of the jury, the defendant admitted it himself. He told you that he wrote on that napkin, yes equals 150K. Now, in that meeting, no one once again told him to make a bribe. The defendant took that stand today, and he told you it was clear to him that he had to make a bribe. Members of the jury, no one told him to do so, but yet he did. So writing on that napkin, yes equals 150K, he handed it to the commissioner. Now, members of the jury, this is very important because the commissioner, you heard today that the commissioner did not say no. The commissioner did not say, I need a higher number. The commissioner did not say that I need more money. The commissioner simply handed the napkin back to them. The defendant, he told you to himself, I hope that the commissioner would say no. I hope he would slap it out of my hand. Members of the jury, he gave it back to him. He didn't say he wanted a bribe. He didn't say he wanted any type of money. He handed it back to him, and the defendant, of his own free will, picked up that pen, crossed it out, and wrote a higher number. Members of the jury, that was his decision that he made without anybody saying you needed to bribe somebody, without anyone saying to give the commissioner money. He made that decision of his own free will. And members of the jury, it doesn't stop there, because you heard about another meeting that happened on April 16, 2015. And that was the meeting that was supposed to happen between the defendant, Officer Keenan, his executive assistant, and the gambling chair, Chase Covington. Members of the jury, you heard from his assistant that he put $200,000 into a briefcase, and he proceeded to that meeting with the briefcase in hand. When he got to that meeting, Chase Covington wasn't there. Members of the jury, it could have stopped there. At that moment, the defendant had a choice. He could have simply returned to his office. He could have stopped. Members of the jury, the defendant took that stand today, and he told you. Chase Covington didn't show up to that meeting. So, with the briefcase in hand, with $200,000, I proceeded to the VIP room where I found Chase Covington. And he told you the rest was history. I gave that money to Chase Covington without Chase Covington never telling him to do so. Members of the jury, when you leave a meeting and you seek out the person to give them money, members of the jury, that is of your own free will. Because today we heard that Officer Keenan did not tell him to go and find Mickey Keenan. No one told him to do this. Yet the defendant chose of his own free will to act upon himself to give this money to Chase Covington so he could receive a second casino. And members of the jury, today the state, they had a burden of proof, and we have proven that burden to you. But the defense, they also raised an affirmative defense. And they had to prove to you entrapment, which simply means, is it more likely than not that Officer Keenan forced the defendant into making this bribe? And members of the jury, we have not heard any testimony to that fact today. Because Officer Keenan and the defendant came up to you today and both told you, I didn't talk about money, I didn't talk about the bribe. I presented him with the opportunity. You heard today that the defendant took that chance. The officer asked open-ended questions, dropped hints, and the defendant latched on. Members of the jury, it is clear today that the defendant made this bribe of his own free will. It was his choice. And that is why we ask that you find the defendant guilty for the choices that he made. Thank you.